Hello and welcome to Saints Live. I'm Steve Forbes.
I'm Kenzie Benali.
And we've just got over an hour to go until Southampton take on Leicester at Wembley in the FA Cup semi-final. Kenzie, how exciting is this? And there's just one hurdle to go before the winners of this match take on Chelsea in the final. Today's show is sponsored by Virgin Media, and we've got three amazing guests joining us to chat all things pre-game. We have Premier League reporter Paul Belverstone, former Southampton captain Dean Hammond, and current Southampton midfielder Oriol Romeu. So thank you so much for joining us today, guys. Before we get into talking about the potential team news, Oriol, just wanted to get a quick update on the injury. How are you feeling? Are you gutted to be missing today?
Yeah, I'd love to be there, but no, I'm fine. I'm doing all right. I'm very happy with how everything's going. Had surgery 6-7 weeks ago. Still have like probably a month left. But yeah, so good. How do you say it? So far, so good. And very happy with the recovery and with the rehab.
Well, it's a shame you can't be at Wembley, but we're super excited to have you on.
Yeah, we most certainly are, Oriol. Well, the FA Cup semi-final team news is under 15 minutes away now. We will, of course, be bringing you that hot off the press. The good news is that there is no fresh injury concerns. Takumi Minamino, though, is, of course, cup-tied. Dean, we'll come to you first for your thoughts on the lineup today. Do you think we'll see any changes to the side that we saw midweek?
Potentially, Kenzie. I'm not sure the manager will make many changes. I think probably 9 out of the 11 players, as always, pick themselves. I think that's pretty consistent with the manager. Obviously, the performance against West Brom was disappointing and a little bit of frustration with the performance and the result. I think the manager would have looked at it and maybe had a good think about it. But I think he'll be pretty consistent with the team. Potentially, I think Che Adams may come back into the team. I think that could be a good change or a good selection, just because his work rate and the intensity plays up. And then whether you play Theo Walcott, play Nathan Redmond, or Gineppo could potentially come in. I just think there was the team on against West Brom didn't quite work as a unit defensively and attacking wise. I think there was a few gaps, and I think today at Wembley, it's a huge football pitch. Leicester obviously playing an expansive game. I think the team needs to be defensively sound to start with and then build from there. So, look, I think the manager has got options, which is fantastic. It really, really is. But I think he's proven this season he's very, very consistent in his selection. So I could potentially see 1 or 2 changes, but not major changes.
And what about yourself, Paul? Because obviously it was disappointing the other night against West Brom.
It was, but I think, no one goes into that game not wanting to perform anything like that, but you only need to drop 1 or 2%. That's the old cliche, isn't it? And West Brom are so desperate for points, desperate to win. So, I think from the outside, you can kind of write that off as a one-off and one of those horrid things that happen sometimes. I think there's a very good case for playing the same 11 again. As Dean said, the sort of the 9 definites and then the couple of others, it's very easy to keep those 2 still in there. I do wonder if it's a day for Che Adams, though, just like Dean said, because he's been sort of kept back a little bit after a very good March where he scored 3 goals for Southampton, another for his country as well, playing up at Scotland for the first time. He's then only had 2 very brief sub appearances, so he's very fresh. And there's the added thing, I did speak earlier about how he grew up in Leicester. It was his dream to play for Leicester, and they shattered those dreams. 5 or 6 times he went for trials from under 8s to under 16s, and he's been speaking about that this week, about how it has left a scar, how he's always wanted to sort of prove them wrong, because being rejected isn't nice. Being rejected 5 or 6 times is even worse. So I do wonder if he's been kept back a little bit with this game in mind. But then I think back to the Burnley game and how well Theo Walcott, Nathan Redmond combined, interacted, switched around and caused a normally very solid defence so many problems. Ralph has got some difficult decisions to make up front, especially. I think the 2 holding midfield players, the 4 at the back, the goalkeeper, I think they all pretty much pick themselves. It is just in attack where it's lovely to see Southampton having so many options.
Yeah, it certainly is. And it's now under 10 minutes time until we bring you that team news. So please do let us know in the comments who you'd like to see starting against Leicester this afternoon. But for now, before we go any further, we are going to hear from Ralph. He told us what this game means to the team and to him personally.
Personally, sure. Also a very big moment for me. I haven't had so many cup semi-finals so far in my entire managing career. So a big moment. We know that we can write history for this club. We know that it is something we were working hard for. We beat the cup holders. We went through 4 rounds to come here, and now we are 2 wins away from winning a big trophy. So this is definitely something we were focusing on in the second half of the season, and that's the reason why we go with all the self-confidence we can build up in this game.
There we go, Ralph Hasenhuttl there. Oriol, the FA Cup has such a big reputation in England, but was that something that you were aware of before you first moved over here?
Not really, no. I knew more of the Premier League than the FA Cup, but as soon as I moved to Chelsea, they kind of made me aware of how important it was and how much they appreciated this competition, which, in fairness, if I'm not wrong, is the longest competition in history, in the history of football, or something like that. I remember they were all very focused, and the managers always have paid a lot of attention to this competition. So yeah, when I moved in, I didn't know it, but I certainly know now how important it is.
Well, Dean, it is, of course, 2 of your former clubs going head-to-head today. A big day for you. How big an opportunity is this for both teams? And also, you know, how big is this day for them? Because it's not very often that either side reach cup finals.
You're right, Kenzie. I think it's a huge opportunity for both clubs to reach the final of a major competition. Like the FA Cup is still a major competition. It's something as players that you want to win. It's silverware, and I think it's an opportunity, obviously, for if you're talking for Leicester. Brendan Rodgers has gone to Leicester with a huge reputation. They're doing very, very well in the league, but he'll want to win some silverware. He'll want to try and win a competition. So again, it's an opportunity for them. And for Southampton, the managers put a lot of attention on this, a lot of focus on the cup competition to try and do very well, to try and win some silverware. And I think as individual players, you can almost become legends of the football club. Because like you mentioned, Kenzie, Southampton, realistic, are they going to win the Premier League? Probably not. I know Leicester have won the Premier League, but they're not really going to win it again. I think that was almost a freak thing that happened. So the FA Cup is a huge opportunity for these players to taste that success of winning at Wembley, of winning silverware, of getting back into Europe. And I think there's a little bit more pressure on Leicester. If you look at it, they're in a fantastic position in terms of the Champions League and in the position they are in the league. But they were in a similar position last year and they kind of faded away and fell out of the top 4. So they'll be wary of that. They really, really will. And I think both clubs will be happy that they're playing each other and didn't draw Chelsea or Man City. So it'll be a good opportunity for both clubs to get to that final. And in a final at Wembley, the game's 50-50, whoever you're playing. I think both teams will be up for this and it's a really, really important game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Paul, we all know that the last time Southampton lifted the FA Cup was in 1976. We can see footage from scenes in the city at that point. I mean, just how big would it be, or how much would it mean for the city to reach the final again, or even lift the trophy again?
Well, I always find it extraordinary that a club the size of Southampton, that's been so high in the English pyramid for so many of the 130 odd years, has only got the one major trophy in the cabinet. And back then in 76, of course, Saints were a second division side. They didn't manage promotion that season. They won the FA Cup. Wonderful. The team today, or the team this season, the squad, have the chance to make this the greatest season in the club's history, because a top flight finish and winning the FA Cup, well, they've never done that before. So how many players have an opportunity to produce the greatest ever campaign for a club. That really doesn't happen very often at all. So it would be enormous for the city, enormous for the club. And like Dean said, these players would become legends. You know, Southampton haven't had a great deal of luck in major competitions. You know, I think, is it 6 finals in major cup competitions, 4 in the FA Cup. The 2 of those were 120 odd years ago. And semi-finals as well. This is, if we're superstitious, this is the 13th semi-final. Well, actually, I'm not sure they can be more unlucky than they have been in previous years. So perhaps that's a good thing. And equally, the last 2 times they've met Leicester in the FA Cup, they've beaten them. The first time they ever met against Leicester was in an FA Cup game that they won. So perhaps the omens are on Southampton's side today.
Oriol, did the players speak at the beginning of the season about expectations in cup competitions, and how much does it boost confidence amongst the side having a good cup run?
It does. It actually does. And the cup has also last season and this season has been very important, and we've tried to get as far as we could. I remember also 2 or 3 years ago when we played that final, the cup final, Carabao Cup final. It was such an achievement, and the environment around the club was amazing. We really enjoyed it, and this season we kind of went through the stages very well. We played those tough games that you have to play and you have to get through. I think really well, and now we find ourselves in a semi-final against Leicester, a team that. Of course, despite the tough defeat that we had 1 or 2 seasons ago, I think since then we've reacted quite well, and we've pressed them a lot better, and we've put them always under a lot of pressure. So we'll see how it goes, but it's a semi-final, and I agree with Dean. In those type of matches, anything can really happen, and having a good start or making sure you quite committed and you're feeling comfortable out there, dealing with the emotions, everything will play a part today. And I'm sure we got the experience right now, we got the players, and I also agree with Paul, we got a strong squad, and we have to remember that was it in last year, the amount of points that we got was very high. So we need to believe in the lads, and we need to believe in them because they got the quality and they're going to have their chances.
Yeah, we've got just about 2 minutes until the team news is announced. Dean, just wanted to touch on this quickly. You've been involved in big games for Southampton, and Oriol touched there on the emotions. How is it difficult to keep them under control and really stay focused on the game at hand?
It's a good question, Steve. I think you try to keep everything very, very normal. You try to keep everything consistent in what you normally do in terms of preparation. But the emotions are different. The build up to the game is different. It really, really is, because of the expectation and the excitement really from everyone. And that does bring some extra nerves. But I think as an individual player, and I think as a manager, you just try to prepare and do everything the same. The preparation, the analysis, looking at the other team, looking at their weaknesses, what are your strengths to be able to win the game, is very, very important, and trying to keep that as natural and neutral as possible. But it is different. It is different because you're so keen to do well. You're so keen to progress and get to that final. But it is, it can literally come down to being able to control them emotions, and whatever team does that best will probably win the game.
Well, before we bring you the team news in just under a minute's time now, still time to take a look at what's being said on social media. Lots of excited fans indeed. Lots of you predicting a big win today as well. Jonah on YouTube said, I'm so nervous, but come on you Reds. Dean, hello to you. He said, all the best for today, boys. Hoping you can all turn up ready for the game. Nigel's got in touch. He says, marching on to victory. Let's hope so, Nigel. Katie is also with us. She says, come on, say Saints. If everyone gives 110%, we can definitely do this. Lynn has also left us a comment. She says, all your true fans are behind you today, so come on, you Saints. Mark, good afternoon. He says, come on, you Reds. Red Army, let's get to the final. 1-0 and Ings to score. Billy has left us this comment. He says, come on, Saints, you can do it. Show the doubters up. And a final one from Paul. We will be watching the game from our new house here in Portugal. Well, that sounds like an absolutely delightful setting to be watching the game from. Now, the team news has just been announced. You can see it on your screens now. So let's take a look at that in full then. Just the one change, Theo Walcott drops to the bench and Moussa Djenepo comes in, so Redmond will partner Ings up top. So let's run through that team in full then. In goal is Fraser Forster. He has of course kept a clean sheet in every game so far in the competition. The back four is made up of Kyle Walker-Peters, Jan Bednarek, Yannick Vestergaard and Ryan Bertrand. Anchoring the midfield in front of them is our captain James Ward-Prowse, alongside him Ibrahima Diallo. Out wide, Stuart Armstrong and Moussa Djenepo, and leading the line is Danny Ings and Nathan Redmond. On the bench then for Southampton today, Alex McCarthy, Mohamed Salisu, Jack Stevens, Kane Ramsey, Alex Jankovic, Will Ferry, Theo Walcott, Nathan Teller and Shay Adams. Oriol, we'll come to you first then. Naturally, you'd like to be involved, but how do you rate our chances today with that side?
We'll have a good go. The issue here is whether we're gonna this season we've had some very good performances and some ones that haven't been that good, and we can just go 2 weeks back against Burnley. The way we played was amazing. We created, I think, the most chances in this season, and against West Brom it was nowhere near that performance. So we'll see how it goes. But the lineup that we have, I've seen Ralph goes for Moussa instead of Theo. That's probably the only change from last week. We know Moussa can physically get to many places, and defensively he is quite committed as well, and he helps a lot to the fullbacks. So yeah, we'll see. Also, it's Danny and Redders are starting to get comfortable with each other. Hopefully they can create a lot of and ask a lot of questions to that Leicester side. And with the big pitch, the only thing that I think we need to do better today is looking after that ball better than we did against West Brom. Otherwise, you're going to be running a lot of time and big spaces. And I know defensively and pressing we're good, but yeah, if you don't look after the ball well enough, it's going to be too tough. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dean, let's invite your thoughts on this then. What do you make of that Danny Ings, Nathan Redmond partnership?
It can work. It's worked previously. I think the relationship can definitely work. They've both got attributes and qualities that can definitely hurt Leicester. I think the manager's thinking in terms of Nathan's energy, in terms of pressing Leicester. I watched the game last week against West Ham, and they struggled. They really did with the movement of Jesse Lingard and Bowen on and off the ball. So that could be a reason for playing Danny and Nathan together. And I like Djenepo coming in. I really do. I think it gives Ryan some more protection that potentially he didn't have against West Brom. Oriol's just touching it. His work ethic is fantastic. It really is. And he's got their moments of magic. He that he can produce, that if he gets in them one-on-one situations, them isolated situations, he can take players on, he can create things. So it's a very, very strong team. But I think it's like Oriol just mentioned, it's been able to keep the ball, keep possession, and when there's opportunities to try and press Leicester with that energy, with that aggression, I think that's where the opportunities will come from.
Well, Belvers, Dean's just mentioned Moussa's moments of magic. What do you think his inclusion in the side today will do for the Saints this afternoon?
I think he'll bring a lot to the team. I think it's also a positive, though, that it perhaps sees Stuart Armstrong shift back over to the right, where he has this wonderful relationship with Kyle Walker-Peters down that side, doesn't he? Whereas when Theo plays, Stuart obviously often shifts over to the other side. I think it's a very strong selection. Nathan Redmond couldn't have done any more in the last FA Cup game, the win against Bournemouth. So absolutely. And against Burnley again, he was terrific after those first 20 minutes when no one had a good game. So no, I like the team. And, you know, again, Southampton have already made it through one FA Cup tie today. So perhaps today is the day. You know, the women winning at Lewis in the Women's FA Cup was just a tremendous result. A championship side they went up against who haven't had their season curtailed at all. To win there, I think, is fantastic. To win at Wembley against Leicester would make it a fantastic double for the club today. But, I mean, look, we haven't really touched on the biggest selection issue today, where we've got Oriol on our show, which I think is amazing. To have a proper midfielder in our
Cheers,
way
Paul.
too long. Someone who can talk with authority about crossing the middle of the park.
Well, it's about time, Dean. But yeah, a real delight to have you with us, Oriol. Now, Belvers, you mentioned that Southampton women's match there, and we are going to take a look at the highlights from that match now. Southampton women were in action earlier this afternoon, if you missed it. In the fourth round of the FA Cup, they beat Lewis 2-1, as Belvers said. Kayla Rendell with this save there. A bit of a nervy start to the game, but never in doubt. And then they went on to score the first goal. Georgie Freeland there. Great goal.
Great finish, yeah.
And delighted to see them progress today. Was a little bit nervy after that moment, but of course, never in doubt. Rachel panting there with a cracking goal to make it 2 for the Saints. So they will take on Birmingham in the next round in about a month's time. Wow, what a way to seal the deal. Fantastic goal there.
What a superb effort this is. The technique on that. Not seen you bury one of them, Dean.
No, I don't think I can keep that far, to be honest. So.
Yeah, fantastic for Southampton women to progress to the next round, especially, as Paul said, over a championship opposition in Lewis. But let's look at how the men's side reached the semi-final of the FA Cup, overcoming Shrewsbury, Arsenal, Wolves and Bournemouth.
Southampton go long early. Try and get the ball up towards Ulundaloo, who shoots low, and it's going to dribble almost past Sarkic. The ball 3 yards outside the penalty area on the left. Ward-Prowse is going to have a go at this, curls it, and it's gone in for the second, and that does finish the game. Ward-Prowse will collect, brings Walker-Peters into the game, right-hand side in the penalty, low ball across the near post, and Adams gets a touch, and Southampton have the lead. Walker-Peters may be celebrating himself if it got a defensive deflection. Both teams have come out as Ings. He's onside, played through by Bertrand, and it comes off Ruddy, back to Ings, off his leg and rolls in. Now the back pass to Ruddy's put him under some pressure, he's giving it away. Here's Nathan Teller, and then Ruddy's come back out to close the angle, but he gets it back to Armstrong, and Armstrong in off the post puts Southampton through to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. Then Walker-Peters intercepts and reads the ball well, and he plays it forward early to Redmond, and that's the key, and he turns and runs towards the defence, going from right to left. Redmond approaching the D, slips into Genepo, it's brilliant, and Genepo has a goal, and Southampton do have the lead. Bertrand takes the throw, and it goes through to Redmond, and suddenly Redmond's through towards the goal, and Redmond's in the D, and Redmond's in the box with Cook going back, it goes round him, and Nathan Redmond scores as well! And in stoppage time at the end of the first half, Southampton go 2-0 up. Saints get the ball back on the edge of the box, Ward-Prowse into Redmond, back to Armstrong, he hits the post, back to Redmond! Southampton are through to the semi-finals of the FA Cup.
Well, Dean, let's start with the win over Shrewsbury then. Obviously, at this point in the competition, we weren't thinking about Wembley, but how good was it to see Ralph giving the youngsters an opportunity and to see them delivering?
Brilliant, and I think obviously that's great because that's the philosophy of the football club. It always has been, and giving younger players opportunities. It was good experience to them, a good opportunity against good professionals from a good level who are very, very competitive. Dan Alundlu scoring a really, really good goal here, shows really good composure going across the goalkeeper. But no, a top performance, and it was a good way to start the FA Cup, and just showed good intent from the manager at that period that he was going to give the younger players opportunities in the Premier League. It gave them a chance to prove to him that they were potentially ready. Another wonderful free kick from James Ward-Prowse, which we know he's got that ability. Led the team very, very well. He's been great as captain all season. So it was great from the manager. It really was. And that was the game before the Arsenal game. I think it was 2 consecutive games. I think we played Shrewsbury and then Arsenal without a league game in between. And then the manager completely changed it for the Arsenal game, which showed his intent really for the FA Cup. But no, brilliant for the younger players to experience that competitive game at St Mary's, to be able to taste that victory and show to the manager that they are potentially ready for some action within the league.
Yeah, well, when you are drawn against the holders in round 4, you could be forgiven for thinking that maybe you might have a premature end to your FA Cup run, but that wasn't to be the case. Paul, how impressive was that win over Arsenal?
Especially when you've got a history like Southampton have, where they hadn't knocked out the holders of the FA Cup in nearly 120 years going into that game. And it was a game where there were a couple of players missing. One of them is with us today, but Kyle Walker-Peters very, very clever, managing to pick out the inside of Gabriel's thigh there to beat Bernd Leno. But that was the first goal. Arsenal were in great form then. That was the first goal they'd conceded in something like 9 hours of football. They were on a lovely unbeaten streak, and things looked like they were clicking for Mikel Arteta's side. But they really clicked for Southampton that day. It was a tremendous team performance. Everyone working so very hard. James Ward-Prowse hit the bar. Shea Adams forced a good save as well, and Arsenal might have dominated the possession, but I think Southampton really had the best chances. There was only the one save that Fraser Forster had to really pull off. That was quite late on, and the work without the ball that Southampton did that day, that was sort of back to the early days of the season when they were playing so very well and exploded out of the traps, really. So no, it's a tremendous day, tremendous performance, and tremendous result.
It certainly was, and another tremendous result was the one against Wolves. Oriol, you played in that match at Molineux. That was an excellent result, particularly as that's really not an easy place to go.
Yeah, I agree. It's a tough game, and I remember we weren't having good times in the league. We were struggling a little bit, and we thought it's a good chance now to probably keep our pressure off the league and go into the cup, feel comfortable, play some good football. And I think we did. I think we played really well. We waited for our chances. We got a bit lucky there with Danny's goal, but I'd say we were the better team. And then Stu scored the second, and we came back probably to the way we were playing a few months earlier. And it was a great win, great performance. It wasn't easy, but it allowed us to keep going in this beautiful cup run. Also, another clean sheet, which we have to mention as well, because Fraser's done really well, keeping clean sheets and making sure we had bigger chances to stay on and keep going.
Yeah, definitely. Dean, I remember us chatting before the Bournemouth game. We were expecting a tight match there, and it turned out to be an emphatic win. Just how surprised were you of how easy Saints made that look that day?
Very surprised. Not surprised with how well Southampton performed and dominated the game. But like you mentioned, Steve, before the game, potentially could have been a very, very tricky tie. Local derby between the two teams. But Southampton really that day played exceptionally well, very, very comfortable on the ball. And once Gineppo scored the first goal, there was only one team really in the game, played some really good attacking football, scored 3 very, very good goals, like we're seeing here from Nathan Redmond, who was particularly good on the day. Played with that real freedom, that real aggressiveness he plays in his play, driving at defenders, as you can see demonstrated in this first goal here. And I think the work off the ball was very good on the day. They didn't allow Bournemouth to settle, didn't allow Bournemouth to try and get some positive out of the game, to think they're in a cup competition. Just showed the extra class, the extra quality, and it was an enjoyable afternoon. Really, really good to watch, and a great performance individually and collectively.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, before we go any further in the show, we are going to head back to social media and see what you're saying. For those of you watching along at home, lots of fantastic comments here. Colm Dawson has said, "Come on, Saints. I remember 76. We were underdogs then too. Keep up the fighting spirit until the end and we will win again. Let's hope so." Yvonne, hello to you. She says, "You can definitely do this, lads. Come on, you Reds." Carol's also left us a comment. She says, "Come on, you Reds," again, and a love heart emoji. Rosemary says, "Good team selection. Come on, Musa, get those magic feet moving. Fingers and toes crossed for a Saints win." Absolutely. Owen, hello. He says, "Adams deserves a start, but I love the team anyway." James Witt he's put super sub Chele. Love it. Tom on Facebook, he says, "We love Oriol. He's very excited to see him on the show, as are we." Alex Brown says, "Come on, you Saints. We need this, boys." Mark has also left us a comment. He says, "Well done, Saints ladies. A great start for the club today. Can we do the double?" And final one for now from Paul Lucas. He says, "Huge game for Saints. We'll be glued to the TV, cheering the lads on. Thanks for the insights, Oriol, Dean and Paul. And of course, congrats to Marianne and the women."
Yeah, definitely. Massive games today. Before we move on, Kenzie, we do have to give a little nod to our set designers for Saints Live for selecting the shirts behind. If you didn't know, they are our previous FA Cup semi-final shirts. So starting off on the one behind Kenzie is from 1976. Behind me, if you can get that, it's from 2003. And then bang, the one in the middle is the one to be worn today. So good omens for the other two. So let's hope it's the same today. Well, Saints last made the final of the FA Cup back in 2003, and that year they beat Watford in the semi-final at Villa Park.
Hardly with a free kick. Belverstone! Well, that was pretty close. Helderson trying to spot a gap at the near post. The goalkeeper with an important save then. Anders Svensson now for Southampton. Marston behind him. Terrific ball into Marston here for Southampton. Is this the breakthrough? It is! Brett Ormeron breaks the deadlock. And Southampton have a sniff of Cardiff. Decent cross and another decent header, this time by Michael Svensson. Wide to Ardley. Glass. Oh, he's hit the crossbar. Ormeron. Still Ormeron. BT arriving, it's gone in, he's bundled it over the line. Southampton are on their way to the final.
Such great memories. And Belvers, you were there that day. What are your memories from that day?
I remember being surprised by the white shorts. Wasn't expecting that as they ran out, but of course there was a clash with Watford's black shorts. The roar at the final whistle was enormous. I remember that. But the game, it wasn't a classic, but we went there with high hopes because it was a bit of a quirk. But all the way through that run, Southampton had seen off creatures. It was Tottenham, the Cockerel, and then Millwall, the Lions, Norwich, the Canaries, and then of course Wolves before the Hornets. So Paul Jones coming in because Anthony Amy was injured. That was a surprise, but there was a nice sort of nostalgic feel about that. He deserved it after so long at the club, being such a good servant. And then it was a day when Gordon Strachan's favourites really shone. There was Chris Marsden, you saw there. Brett Ormerod was so key that day, and he was kind of, I suppose, in modern terms, a much lighter version of sort of Roberto Firmino, not playing up front because he scored lots and lots of goals, but because of the work he did for the rest of the players around him. And that day, he scored the opener. He set up the winner as well, or the goal that made it 2-0 that Paul Robinson turned into his own net. And Gordon Strachan, I remember, had been banging on about the likes of Paul Telfer, Ormerod, Marsden, the players that didn't do the prettiest stuff, perhaps, but were so key to that team. And I mean, how James Beattie's claiming that goal, I'll never know. But he could have had a penalty in the first half as well. You know, Saints got off to a slightly slow start, but basically controlled it against a championship side who'd already knocked out a couple of Premier League sides on their way to this game as well. And I remember I went outside on the final whistle to see all the fans jumping up and down, singing, dancing, and getting those shots that are so wonderful when you're a sports reporter putting together a story of the match. And there was a lot of colour, a lot of excitement outside, of course. And I remember, of course, Gordon Strachan's got this reputation of a lot of fond memories of the very clever comments he gave back to reporters' stupid questions. He did have a side where he didn't really like doing interviews at all, though. And I remember coming back into Villa Park, seeing my great rival from the BBC, Tony Husband, walking up, chasing Gordon Strachan up the stairs, actually, saying, "Come on, you need to give us an interview." And Strachan had turned round and sort of snarled at him that he'd already spoken to Match of the Day, 5 Live and Solent. Why did he have to do a 4th BBC interview? And I just looked up and said, "Congratulations, Gordon." And his face completely changed, lit up, said, "Oh yeah, thanks very much." And then he turned back and snarled at Tony. Now, if I was any sort of team player, I would have said, "Come on, Gordon, it's a wonderful day. Go on, give him a couple of answers." But no, I just giggled to myself because it was Tony's turn to get snarled out that day rather than mine.
Took that as 1-0 to Belverstone then, yeah. Well, the final that year in 2003 wasn't actually played at Wembley, it was in Cardiff. So it took 7 years for Saints to finally play in the new Wembley Stadium. And that was in the Johnston's Paint Trophy final. Dean, you obviously played that day. Just how special was it for you?
An amazing occasion, Steve. It really was. Playing at Wembley. Obviously, you can see with the atmosphere, with the amount of Southampton fans there, just a fantastic day. Not only winning the game very, very convincingly, the noise of the fans when we were warming up, the noise and the atmosphere of the fans when we turned up in the bus before the game, being able to win the game so convincingly, even though we didn't play fantastically well on the day, if I'm honest. But to win the game 4-0, I think we were 4-0 up. We were after about 60 minutes. To be able to enjoy a game at Wembley is very rare, I think, and to be able to appreciate what's actually going on when you're not fully involved and concentrating on the game because you've got such a lead, really. And then walking up the steps to lift the trophy with Cal was fantastic, with such a brilliant group of players, brilliant players, good people. And I think it was the start of the recovery of the football club. It'd been a difficult few years. We had new owners now who were very ambitious, had a good manager in place, good players, and we felt as though we were making progression. So I think it was the first step. And for me personally, I think it was probably the start of my career where I started really there appreciating I was at a big football club. I knew Southampton was a big football club, but I think I really appreciated how big the club was then. So amazing memories that will live with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, most definitely a great day for the club for sure. Now, Oriol, you of course played in the EFL Cup final at Wembley in 2017. How special was that for you, and also how frustrating was it to lose so narrowly?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was probably my nicest experience as a football player, and definitely in the club. Coming and walking out Wembley, having our fans on one side, Man United fans on the other side, but also the way the game went. 2-0 down, came back 2-2, had our moments, had our chances. I had my chance, which I will always probably remember. And then last 5 minutes, it just went their side. But what probably has always stayed in my mind is how the fans stayed after the game and just applauded our game, and they were very grateful for our performance and how we played. And that was something that I will always, although we lost and there is no medal in our chest, we'll always take it, and I'll always remember that game with a very nice, very, very nice feeling.
Well, speaking of memories, I don't think any Southampton fan will ever forget Manolo Gabbiadini's goal that was ruled offside. Paul, for all the negativity surrounding VAR, it would have just been nice to have had that goal given.
It's been incredible. I know every club has their bad luck story or two of VAR, but if you think before the technology came in, there was the Charlie Austin Park Life moment when some idiot reporter asked him about a disallowed goal against Watford. Now we have VAR. There's the Villa game with the Matty Cash handball that wasn't given, the Danny Ings offside that wrongly was, Shea Adams, Jan Bednarek against United. Southampton don't seem to have ever had any luck when it comes to these marginal calls. And, I remember that at 0-0, what a start that was. And also, no one has ever scored a hat-trick in a League Cup final. Well, Manolo Gabbiadini has, because he was remarkable that day and in those first few weeks after his move from Napoli. The character shown to have that goal chalked off, to then go 2-0 down, to battle back to be 2-2, and then you have that moment. I mean, it was so close, wasn't it? It was so close to being Southampton's League Cup that year. So I remember on the final whistle, yes, the noise from the fans, but the emotions on the pitch, the players did look absolutely crushed. They'd given everything. They deserved so much more. It just struck me as being a little cruel, really, to see Southampton lose that day. As biased as I am, I really felt they deserved it. And Jose Mourinho even came out afterwards and said the better team lost, which he doesn't say that sort of thing very often.
Oh, it still feels a bit cruel looking back on it now, doesn't it? Now, Oriol, you of course also played in the FA Cup semi-final in 2018 when we lost 2-0 to Chelsea. But just how different is the club and the team now? Because we were obviously struggling in the league at that moment in time.
Yeah, I think we're getting into a completely different moment to the semi-final right now. At that point, we rarely had a good match in that league. Every time we struggled, we didn't play good football. We weren't strong defensively. We couldn't keep the ball. Whereas now we show some really good games, and we've played a lot of matches a lot better than we used to, and we've beat a lot stronger teams than we used to. I remember at those years we barely beat any of the top six, whereas the last two we've probably beat them all. So no, I totally think that we're in a completely different moment, and we're gonna have a lot more chances in this semi-final than the ones we had in the previous one.
Dean, what do you make of FA Cup semi-finals now being played at Wembley? Traditionally, it was always at neutral venues. Do you think it diminishes reaching the final in some way?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, Steve, to be honest, because obviously the FA Cup final when I was growing up was very, very special. That, it was what you wanted to get to. The build-up would start at 9 o'clock in the morning. It'd be on BBC. You'd watch interview after interview, replays after replays. It would be such a fantastic day and an occasion, and make it very, very special. And I don't mind it being in a neutral grounds, actually, the semi-final, because you still have half the stadium with the fans, half the stadium with the other fans. So it still makes that special. So I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I would like the final to just be at Wembley, but also it's a great opportunity for players to play at Wembley, because during your career, not many professionals, or not all professionals, get that opportunity to play at Wembley. And it's such a special stadium. It really, really is. But I would like to see that, the final is just played at Wembley personally. And you do have the semi-finals at neutral grounds, Old Trafford or, Villa Park, like it used to be. You've got some fantastic stadiums around the country now, the Emirates. So I just think if you could keep Wembley for the final, I think it would make it even more special. But that's just my personal opinion.
Well, Belvers, looking at today's game then, what kind of match are you expecting?
I think semi-finals are rarely classics. I'd very much like this to be a Spurs-Arsenal 1991, something to really get the blood pumping. but just want a Southampton win. Just as much as anything, to rid the club of some of those demons from the Leicester game 2 seasons or last season, 18 months ago, whatever it was. I think they can be a bit nervy, particularly at the start, semi-finals, but I like to think that a lot of the Southampton players especially have very good recent memories of successes at Wembley. James Ward-Prowse, Danny Ings, they've both scored for England at Wembley recently and done very well there. Jan Bednarek played well for Poland, although that was in a defeat, but that was only last month, 6 months or so ago. Yannick Vestergaard, he played in a win with Denmark at Wembley again. So, all of these tiny little extra percentages can perhaps give an extra lift in confidence, which can be so crucial in helping players and teams settle quickly. And it's all about these players gelling together as they have done so often this season, having one of their good days where everything clicks, where they virtually don't need to think too much because they know, right, the ball's coming to me here, we've nicked it there, this player's going to be there, and they're not quite on autopilot, but everything is just working like a really slick, well-oiled machine. That's certainly what I'm hoping. I think the atmosphere will be interesting with 4,000 people there, not Saints fans necessarily, not Leicester fans, but there'll be an extra little atmosphere that we're perhaps not used to at the moment. But it's all about settling quickly, getting into the game, and then seeing where it takes us, and hopefully that's to the final.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Oriol, looking at Leicester's weaknesses, where can Saints really hurt the Foxes today?
Where can we hurt them? Especially if we don't allow them to run very quickly in the contest. They got a very fast striker, we all know, Jamie Vardy, and he's quite powerful playing like that. They also good building up from the back, but I think if we can keep them in their half and pressing and getting those balls higher up the pitch, it's going to give them a lot of problems. I think they got good centre backs, but they are world class with the ball, so they're going to give us a lot of chances to nick balls higher up. And as we mentioned before, comparing the game against Burnley and the game against West Brom, our performance with the ball was completely different. Against Burnley, we found options, we found players between the lines, we created chances. Against West Brom, we couldn't get 2 passes in a row, 3 passes in a row, and that's going to be very important, because I remember also last final against Man U, we started anxious, emotions were there, and as soon as we kept the ball a little bit, we felt more comfortable and we could start to play our football. Like the heart rate goes and gets more calmer, and then you start to feel more confident. So getting into that rhythm, pressing them well, and making sure they don't run too fast and they don't get too many balls too badly will give us more chances to get a win.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, Dean, Leicester have lost their last 2. They have never lost 3 in a row under Brendan Rodgers. We know that you've seen a lot of them this season. What kind of state are they in at the moment?
I think they're in a similar position as they were last season. I think there's a little bit anxious and a little bit nervous of, obviously, they've been in such a strong position in terms of the Champions League. They've got a fantastic squad of players, they really have. They've suffered with some injuries, missing James Maddison, missing Harvey Barnes. Obviously, Jamie Vardy had the operation on his hip and has not quite found the form that he had previously. But Iniacho has come back in and been fantastic. So I think there's some expectation on Leicester today. They'll be, they're probably favourites on paper to win the game because of the league position. But what that pressure does to them, I'm not sure. But they're a very, very good team. But the manager's been changing shape a little bit. He's been playing 3 at the back and then he's gone to a flat back 4, and the fullbacks he's changed. He's playing Castagna at left fullback, who's a right-footed player. So the balance is not quite there. But they have, the good players. The 2 players in central midfield in terms of Tielemans and Didi are very, very good. And if you allow them to control the game and control the tempo, then it could be difficult for Southampton. But if Southampton press, like Oriol's just mentioned, the 3 centre-halves, if they do play free, they will give you opportunities because they're comfortable on the ball, but they're comfortable on the ball when they've got time. and if you press them and there's good movement around them, you can cause them problems. So I think it's a very even match game. I really, really do. But yeah, both two very good teams in Southampton and Leicester.
Very diplomatic answer there, Dean. We've just been seeing the teams do their final warm-ups before going back into the dressing room. Oriol, what are the last few moments like in a dressing room before a big game? And also, who is the most vocal out of all the Southampton players?
I probably am. I'm one of them, definitely. And then everyone's, Jan Bednarek, Prowse as well. Danny, I mean, we'll try to help each other and make sure we're active, we're ready. We also finding that balance, which probably Dean knows. You know, sometimes if you're too nervous, you just get out and you want to get everywhere and your performance just drops. Finding that balance between nervous and relaxed to help you perform at your best. And those moments are there for that. The manager also likes to have a strong and short message before we come out. And I'm probably today he's probably showing some videos or something to motivate the players and to make sure they're really on it.
Great stuff. Well, it's nearly time to wrap it up, so we'll get your score predictions now, gentlemen. Paul, what do we think it's going to be today?
Thanks for coming to me for that. I think, look, it's going to be tight, but I think, I've no doubts that I'm back in Southampton to win this. I'm wondering about a 2-1 and a few anxious moments, a bit nervy, but let's dodgy VAR call goes Southampton's way, and one wonder free kick again from James Ward-Prowse in a 2-1 win.
Okay, good stuff. Dean, we obviously know you've got history with both sides. What's your answer going to be?
Well, I agree with Paul. Actually, I was going to say 2-1 to Southampton with a Prowsey free kick, only because I watched something earlier in the week of him practicing his free kicks, and I just think it's Southampton's year. I think we've gone through the results in the FA Cup this season, not conceded a goal yet, beaten the holders already, and I think they've played exceptionally well in the FA Cup. So I think this is a great opportunity for them. I think it will be a tight game, but I said that over the last 2 games and got that completely wrong. But I can't go 2-1 like Paul said. So I'm just going to go for a tight but entertaining 1-0 to Southampton.
Okay, fair enough. And Oriol, what about yourself? Do you think it's going to be goals galore or a tight game?
9-0.
I was going to go for the 2-1 as well, but I of course, one has to do well, play well, and hopefully score the 1-0. They're going to open up. They're going to give us spaces, and then we're going to kill the game with them.